Hey everyone, welcome to the Gomez Podcast. It is a great honor today to have with us a real good friend of mine, Mr. James Waring. James was a multiple time kickboxing world champion and a boxing world champion. James was one of the very few fighters in history to win both of those titles, a kickboxing world title and a boxing world title. James was a star athlete in Dade County high school football and basketball. He was also a track and field athlete. Later on, he became an All-American in college football for Eastern Illinois. He was a boxing and kickboxing coach at Tropical Park for many years through the 80s and 90s and helped coach many young kids and future boxers during this era. James also worked for many years as a boxing, kickboxing, and MMA referee for the state of Florida, and today continues to work with many Dade County after-school programs for young kids. James is married to his beautiful wife, Jeannie. They've been married during James's whole entire illustrious career, and they have one beautiful family. Without further ado, let me welcome the star of the program, Mr. James Waring. Welcome, James. Hey, man, it's an honor to have you here with me today, man. It's been a long time, but I'm glad to have you here. Especially you. You were a highly respected fighter in your day. Not only were you a boxing champion, but you were a kickboxing champion and one of the very few guys that held both of those titles. I think there was only maybe one other guy at the time. So, man, it's an honor. A lot of people want to hear your story, your upbringing. A lot of people don't know that you played football. You were a great high school player. You played college football. So I want to thank you again for making this happen, James. And it's an honor to have you here. I want to start off asking you, James, let's talk a little bit about your childhood growing up in Miami and what you remember most about those early days, whatever you remember about those early days, man.
Hector, it's my pleasure to, doing this with you. And I want to say thank you, man, very, very much as a friend.
Thank you. Okay? It's an honor to have you here, man.
Yes. In them days, way back in South Miami, when I was a kid, I was born there in 1957. When I was still a small kid. I remember when I was 5 years old, and we used to shoot, birds, the small birds with. We made our we made slingshots.
Slingshots,
yeah. We made slingshots.
We remember that those days.
Yeah. My brothers made them out of hangers, and it was real good. I mean, it came out really good. Then when I got a little older, maybe 5 years old, somewhere around 5 years old, our parents let us go around selling tomatoes. It was another lady that came by the house and asked us if we want to work. And then there was me and my brothers and all that kind of stuff. And we had like a wooden. You ever see the guys like that shine shoes? They have a little smaller wooden case. Yeah. Okay, selling.
You were learning early on.
Yeah.
A lot of valuable lessons about life, man.
Yeah, right.
Even though you were a little kid.
Yeah, a little kid, but
was this the Perrine area?
No. This was in South Miami.
South Miami. Okay.
Yeah.
You later moved to Perrine.
Yeah. No. I don't say Perrine because we thought we was one of the best town at Richmond Heights.
Richmond Heights. Okay.
Yeah, they just call us yuppies and stuff like that. Yeah. But we were close by Perrine. I mean, we maybe only about
a lot of good fighters come out of that. I remember Kimbo Slice or something in that area, more or less.
Yes. Them guys came along. Them guys came. We was a lot. For us, I know in Perrine, it was them guys did really good what they did. you
You
know,
remember the Key Biscayne Zoo back in the day, and maybe I don't know. I'm just saying. I remember the zoo in Key Biscayne back in those days. I don't know, going early on if you visited the zoo and stuff, and you know,
uh,
it was a different time. Miami was different back then.
right. I mean,
You know, when you were a kid, it was different.
right when I was a kid, 5 years old, you know, and when we were still living in South Miami, you know, they had two kind of, you know, beach, right?
Yeah.
They call the Negro Beach, but it's not a bad word now, but
Oh no, yes.
the Negro Beach, and
Right.
then they had a white beach and stuff like that.
Okay.
But it was good. I mean, it
Right.
was, for me, my experience.
Yeah.
It was the same. We had great people there. You know, make sure that nobody get drowned there or something like that. You know,
Yeah.
we had lifeguards and all that. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a great uh time in your life, man. Just in Miami, more or less, growing up, and it was good, man. I want to get to this here. What got you interested in sports before we even start talking about martial arts? A lot of people don't know this. You were a great athlete before you even got into martial arts. What got you involved in playing things like basketball, football, track and field? Now, I know you probably started doing this in elementary school, but man, that gave you a good base for what was about to be, come later on.
Right. When we moved to Richmond
Richmond
Heights,
Heights. Yeah.
and when we moved there, I mean, they had good programs for kids. They had
Yeah.
programs for kids for 6 years old and and up, right?
Yeah.
And in them ages there, all the parks, all the day kind of parks,
Yeah.
they had a team.
Yeah.
They had a flag
Oh
football
yeah.
team. They
Yeah.
they had a basketball team, and then they had a swimming team,
Yeah.
and I loved it because we go around. I mean, we got trained real well, for swimming, and we had competition with the white, um, um, swimmer team, but we did really good. I mean, heck,
You
we,
did.
we we came there. We came there with good swimming coaches. I'm telling you, and players. You know,
So you started playing all these sports like in junior high school, like even before high school, you were involved in
um,
playing a
um,
lot of these sports.
yeah. I mean, and I grade. I mean, from first grade to fifth grade, they've been teaching us, softball, um, football, flag football, basketball. I mean, the coaches that we had there was really good coaches there. And remember, our school at Frank C. Martin was all black, and it was. I mean, it didn't make a difference because when we play with different parks,
Yeah.
you playing with a different kind of people. But we did really good, and they had great programs back then. Miami-Dade County had excellent programs back
Let
then.
me tell you, I don't know if you remember the Optimist leagues in football. I played Optimist football when I was a little kid, and I'm
Yeah,
telling you, every time we would go into the playoffs, and if we would make it into the championship, you know who was waiting for us at the end? It was always Richmond Perrine, Richmond.
yeah,
It was like they had a great. I would imagine in all sports, but I'm telling you, in football, in Optimus, it was always those are the people that we always had to play in the finals or whatever. Listen, let's move on to your high school. Let's move on to your high school. What high school did you attend, and what were some of your high school accomplishments in high school sports? I
uh,
know you were all county, I think, in football.
yeah. Okay. Football was my sophomore year. In my sophomore year, I played JV, but when my junior year, I went to playing football. I mean, I had everything scheduled out in my brain. I had football, I had basketball, then I had track. You
You had
know,
your hands full. No time to run around with the gangs and stuff. You
right? And then
were preoccupied, man.
right. And I had to go. I got to make sure that I get home on time. And our parents were pretty. Our parents were pretty strict. Because when the light pole light outside came on,
Yeah.
we had to be inside the house.
Yeah.
No,
that's a good rule, man. That for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And
But you
plus,
know
you're
what?
so tired of playing sports that you want to rest your body so you could go do it again the next day. So I would
Yeah, you know
imagine
what?
that.
When you're young like that, and at that age, it's everything like that is pretty easy because you're still young and you got a lot of energy. You know,
Yeah.
but
So it's good to burn that energy.
right. See, you know what? To play, I mean, all those sports, it took me, at Killian, it took me time. But the football, I really did really good in football. I mean, football, like you say, I was all Miami-Dade County, and then all Dade
You were
County.
all county like in 1976, right?
Yeah,
76.
yeah, 1976.
76, you were all county. So you
Yeah,
played those three sports, but football was like
the number one.
sport that really, I mean, I know you did really good in those three sports: basketball, track and field, football. But football, you excelled to the point where you got a scholarship to play for Eastern Illinois,
Yes.
and you ultimately went to play for Eastern Illinois. You became an All-American in football for Eastern Illinois. A lot of people don't know this about you. That's why, man, I'm so glad I'm talking to you about this, because a lot of people want to hear about your football side of things. I heard about it. I remember talking about it with you back in the day, but man, you went to play for Eastern Illinois and you were All American for them. How many years were you All American at
Uh,
Eastern Illinois?
I would, this is how East Illinois worked. I mean, this is how the football team. When I got there, I was on a JV team, right?
Okay.
And I was on a JV team for 1 year, and then the next year, I was a sophomore. I made the varsity team, right? But
Okay.
when I made the varsity team, as a wide receiver, I got zero passes thrown to me. They throw me zero passes.
Zero.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
And then what happened after that? After that season, we won one game. We was 1-11.
So this
Right?
was your first year, right?
Yeah. No. This is my sophomore year.
Oh, your sophomore year. Okay.
Yeah. This is my sophomore year, and we won one game. Right? And
Wow.
then after that, when we had when the football was finished, I went home, for spring break and all that, and then I came back, and I thought about coming back home early, right?
Oh.
And then one of my friends called me up, said, James, we have a new coach here, and we have two new coaches. We got a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator coach here, and Darren Muger was the head coach, and Mike Shanahan was the offensive coordinator. And the day I saw Mike Shanahan, man, that guy, I don't know what he liked by me, or he saw some old film. Yeah, he might have saw some old film from high school. I don't know. Okay. But he was a great coach. He was a smart coach. He was a young kid. I mean, I didn't know how he was so young, man. He was really young.
But he was a motivator.
Oh God, he was
a
motivator.
Good.
He was a good offensive coordinator, excellent offensive coordinator.
And that's what sometimes a guy needs is motivation.
Right, motivation and a great coach that could coach, and things like that. But going into the as of my junior year, what Mike Shanahan did and Darren Muger did, I mean, they're playing a lot of mind games too. But they was excellent coaches, man. We had the best coaches, and
and sometimes that's what high school kids that go to college and away from home and stuff, that's what they need is people that believe in them, people that trust them, and you have to have confidence to want to stay there all those years, because a lot of people get homesick. I want to ask you this. How did you deal with the cold weather, being a Miami kid grew up in the heat and stuff. Now all of a sudden you're in Eastern Illinois and it's cold, buddy. It's cold. So how'd you deal with that? I mean, I would imagine, you got used to it, yeah, like everybody else does. But some of those players you were playing with, they're from up north, so they're kind of used to it. But you're coming from Miami, Florida. I would imagine.
Yeah, but you know what?
You got used to it.
Yeah, I got used to it. Then we you know what? And then we was using, the guys that play golf. The gloves they use to play golf with.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
we had them kind of gloves on, right?
Okay.
And then we're in a big game, we had to put on pantyhose on. We were dark pantyhose. We put them on under our uniform. But you didn't know that. But now the kids got really good stuff to keep themselves really warm. And it was cold, man. It was really cold there, man. I mean, really super cold.
That's why I said it, because I know I have my son living up there, and boy, it's cold, man.
Yeah,
the winter, the dead winter, like January, stuff like that.
It's still cold.
It's very cold, man.
Yeah, but you know what? That made me a better person. To be honest with you,
yeah.
No, if it's snow when you have a game, it's warm. It feels warm. I'm telling you. But if it don't snow and the weather is so cold, man, my ear popped.
Yeah.
And it got like a tear. It was bleeding all over.
Wow.
But that's how cold it was.
You had some guys that you said motivated you, gave you a lot of confidence. Besides your coaches, you had Cedric, Terry, Arthur. I mean, you had some guys, because when you go to college away from home, you bond with certain people that give you that confidence to stick it out, to go through with it. Because a lot of people doubt themselves, when they're away from home. But you had a couple of people that, motivated you to, stick it out, stick it out and go through with it. And
yeah. What you're saying is true. When you leave, like me, I want to go as far away as possible. And this way, if I feel homesick, I cannot leave that fast. Yeah. I have to stick it out and learn how to, I had to stick it out real good. But I was lucky because I had a guy named Arthur Jackson, and he was he was a pastor, but he was a wide receiver a player, and this guy was really good. I mean, excellent. I mean, this guy was a good guy. He came from the Jackson High School, but I'm glad that he got to know me, because when I got sick that day, one day, I had the flu really bad. He took me to the hospital and waited for me. Like he was my father.
So important to have people like that, man. People
from Miami.
You keep in touch with these? Like, I know you went back and visited for some Hall of Fame or something. Did you run into any of these people again?
Or? No. Arthur Jackson had his own church in the Northwest section.
Okay.
I'm a big church. I mean, that was the dream that he was. He wanted more.
Yeah.
But he, I know. Do I meet him? No. You know what? I'm really like a homeboy, right? I talk to everybody outside and so there. When I get home, I'm at home in my own space.
People have this perception of you being this, tough. I mean, you were a tough fighter, no doubt about that. But they don't really know the James Waring side of the humbleness, the family man, the good, loving Christian coming up, like good guy all around. I knew that when I met you, and all the times that we conversed, I go, man, this guy's like a really good guy, and I'm just so glad that you were able to hook up with people in college that kept you on the straight and forward. But here's the next question I want to ask you, which people might not know. You tried out with the Oakland Raiders after your college days were over. I'm talking about Kenny Stabler, Cliff Branch, Tom Flores was the head coach. And man, that was a team back in the late 70s. And you actually were given an opportunity to try out with the Oakland Raiders, man. That's a feat in and of itself.
Yeah, and, 1990. Sorry, 1980.
Yeah.
I was a free agent, and that free agent, I thought we'd get drafted maybe late, right? But it did not work, right? It didn't work. But right after the draft got finished, I got I had the free agent deal, and the deal was it was $500. It wasn't the money that I was worried about, but back then, 1980, $500.
That's the way it was back then. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. But you know what? I took that money and I gave it to my mom, right? And then I was a free agent, and then what happened after the draft and after the draft, all the players come in, to camp, right? For a week, they come into camp. Yeah. But what happened with me, I came straight home, and then I flew out. I flew out to to Oakland Raiders. But when I came home, I went to a tournament, a tough man contest tournament, and I was sitting right there in the front row, and all the guys were fighting, and I asked them, the promoter, can I fight? He looked at me and said, yeah, you can fight. I said, can I fight with my same clothes on? I said, yeah. And I had these, polyester, the polyester pants.
Yes, sir.
I had that on, and I fought with those pants on, and
you won the thing.
Yeah, and I won it. I mean, that was something crazy. Thing. But when I think about it now, I should have never did it because I had to go to Oakland the following, Tuesday.
You probably went with a couple of bumps and bruises. And you could have jeopardized your.
I know. It was. Don't ask me why I did it, but I did it, and that was a tough man contest, and I ain't trained in 4 years of martial arts, and then I went to Oakland, and when I got there, we had run a 40, 40 dash. I ran a 4.6, and they looked at it and said, "Wow!" They didn't believe it because everybody else had me at 4.7, 4.8, but I ran a 4.6, and I had a tryout. It was good. I went back twice. I went there the first time now, and then about a month later, everybody came back again, and then and with me.
But you see what I think? I think that you went at a time when that team was one of the best teams. Them and the Steelers, and you were trying to make it not only into the football league, you were trying to make it on the best team at that time, in my opinion, which is kind of like even twice as hard to make it into that team. But that's the way I'm looking at it.
Oakland Raiders was good, and then not in the 80s. I don't think they went to the even. I think they went maybe 4 years ago. Before I got there, but like I was telling you, when I got off the plane in Oakland, I walked in the hallway and I saw a ring. I said, "We're gonna win that ring this year," right? I said it to me. I said it loud to myself, right? And Oakland, man, they had some good. They had some good players there. You're right. They had,
great players, man.
They have excellent players there. They got a great quarterback. The great quarterback there. They drafted, good quarterbacks.
I don't know if it was Plunkett or Kenny Stabler.
No, it was Plunkett.
It was Plunkett. Yeah.
If I'm not misspelled, Plunkett. Yeah. He was.
Things didn't work out, but I think they even offered you to play Canadian football at the time.
Yeah.
Thought about it.
No, I told him, man, because Canadian football to me was like playing with little league, like playing with like a college. I don't know. I didn't want to do that. My mind was already made up what I want to do. Right when I got cut, I said, man. But then, what I said to myself? I'd be going back to my girlfriend, Jean, right?
Yeah.
And that gave me a good answer to go back with somebody.
They gave you motivation to go back, and a lot of people, especially the people in the fight game, are kind of happy you made that decision because you went on to big things in your
Yes.
career. That's what leads me to the next question. Were you always interested in martial arts, and who did you start training with? What motivated you to start training? I know you once told me Bruce Lee was a big inspiration for you, but
Yes.
you know, I know you used to watch his movies back in the day, and I know that kind of like always was in the back of your mind. But you also mentioned a name, Rod Dalston.
Yeah,
Now,
Rod.
oh, you
Oh
trained
God.
with Rod Dalston.
Yeah, you know what? Rod taught me. You know, when I was in, I think it was Rod taught me. I was in eighth grade, and boy, that guy was. Somebody I don't know the first, the first maybe the first 4 months or 5 months, I was like a moving bag. But he didn't hit me. After a while, I got used to it, how to fight, and but he taught me well. Rod taught me really well.
Rod,
And then
Rod,
and
Rod was a mean guy, man. He was a
yeah,
tough guy. I remember fighting him in a tournament once. He grabbed my gi and ripped it in half. I'm
yeah,
telling you, he
and
was a big,
he's
strong guy, like
yeah, he's naturally strong, man. I'm telling you. I mean, he was born
naturally
that way.
strong.
I'm telling you, he was born that way. But no, he was, and Pat Tolliver
Pat
was,
Tarver, I
and
remember
and, and,
him.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and them guys trained together. Then I trained with him a little bit.
So
It was
this
real
was
good.
all even before you trained with Harold Roth.
Yeah, but no, when I trained with Harold, when I went there, it was great. Now, why? Because Harold was a good teacher back then. You know what I'm
He was
saying?
a
I mean,
good
he was a
motivator. He
great,
was a good
yeah,
motivator too.
yeah, motivated teacher, smart. Um, I mean, he had a lot of good techniques that a lot of people were not doing. I
Yeah.
mean, he was mixing his boxing with his kung fu, with his kickboxing, with his I mean, he learned pretty fast.
Yeah.
And like we call everybody that come in there, less than 6 months,
Yeah.
you fighting a black belt
Yeah.
time. I mean, he teaching you well enough to do that.
I've always said you always find the right teacher for the right time, and I think
Yes.
all those guys, Rod Dalston, Pat
Yeah.
Tarver, you learned from them, and then
Yes.
you went to Harold, and at the right time, that was the right time to learn from Harold.
Oh
And
yeah. I used to spar with Harold, man. I mean, I used to have this shield around my face, and
yeah,
a guy named Rick Cook. I mean, he was a great fighter too. I used to fight the best,
I
and that's
know
what I did.
Tony Palomore used to
Yeah,
train
Tony.
there, and
No, when we brought Tony there,
yeah,
me and a guy named Howard Johnson brought Tony
okay,
to
okay,
Harold to let
okay,
Harold kick his butt. Because he said, no,
okay,
nobody can beat me. That Tony's here, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
but Harold sparred with Tony, but
yeah.
Harold made it was too easy. But when I went to college, when I came back, man, Tony got so good because Harold taught him real well.
Tony was great, man.
Yeah,
Tony
yeah.
was great.
Harold taught him really, really good too.
Remember
Tony was a real
being
good
on
guy.
teams with Tony, and
Yeah,
he was a good guy, man. He was a
yeah,
good guy. He's no
yeah,
longer with us, but man, he was good at tournaments too, and
yeah,
kickboxing. And I remember visiting Harold Ross School, and like he had guitars, amplifiers, and
yeah.
you know he had a fan base. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, he used to sing in a band and stuff like that. So he
Yeah,
he was an eccentric guy aside from teaching kickboxing, and he was a lot of people used to follow him and stuff like that. And so that was a good time that
yeah.
you
Hey,
were
I'm not.
into
It
that.
was a great. Beyond with you, it was a great time because the things that I learned and the stretching. I mean, stretching out and all that kind of stuff. What he taught me,
Yeah,
that helped me out so much
yeah,
in college for football.
yeah.
The
You were getting a
flexibility.
little extra
Yeah,
training
yeah,
on the side
yeah,
that
yeah. When I kiss a
that kind
touchdown,
of
I do a
worked for
split.
football a little bit too.
Yeah, yeah. But now I mean, he was good. I mean, he was good motivated, but he was good. He was good at that time for me. I was
Yeah,
lucky, man. When I'm talking to you now, I feel like I'm the lucky man who's still in the world that's still living.
yeah.
Because I had great people and coaches and people around me all the time. You know,
So tell me when did you decide to make fighting in the ring? I mean, okay, football was over. Uh, You kind of like had to put that on the back shelf. When did you decide, hey man, I'm gonna give this fighting in the ring, I'm gonna try? I know you told me you fought in some continuous fighting tournaments, your first few fights. Uh, you fought, even people don't know that you fought in a couple of tournaments, you
Yeah.
know. But when was the time that you said, man, I think I've got what it takes. I'm going to pursue fighting in the ring, you
You know
know?
what? The first time I thought about that when I got cut from Oakland, when he asked me if I wanted to, play football in Canada, and I said no. But I told him thank you very much. When I got back home, and then when I was flying back home, I was crying on a plane. You know,
Wow.
not loud, but there's tears on my face and
Yourself,
all that
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, and I say, okay, from now on, everything that I do right now. From when I leave this place, I said to myself, I'm gonna be mine. The guy that want to be great, I'm gonna make myself be great, and that's what I did. I went out, came back in. I feel embarrassed, but I told the truth to everybody.
Yeah.
I told them I got cut from the Oakland Raiders and stuff like that, and I never lied about it. But that made me. That what made
That
me.
made you, man.
Yeah.
That motivated you for what was about to come in the future.
Yes. Yes. And then
Yeah.
like I say, when I got back, I fought two more tough man contests. I
Yeah.
fought one. I think I fought one in Fort Lauderdale or Hollywood, somewhere there,
Yeah.
and then I fought one in Tampa, and I won all three of them, really.
Yeah.
You know, um,
I
but
remember Russell used to fight in those things too, and
yes,
back
yes,
in the
yes,
day. And I
yeah.
remember you won two of them, right?
Yeah, no. I won two of them. I won the first one. I came from my favorite college. Then I won another one when I got cut from Oakland Raiders. And then I went to I think the one in Tampa or somewhere up there. And then I won that one there. I won that one there too. I won three. Three of them. But
Good, good.
but it was a good.
It's all a learning curve, man. It's all a
Right.
learning curve, and it's all
Yeah.
building up to, you know, to everything in life builds up to the next phase in your life.
Right. No, it was good. I mean, I didn't. When I won, I didn't go out there and brag about it. None of that. But I just, thought that it was a good way to get there. But it was
Hey,
it was good. It was great.
hey, early on, I know you fought Don Wilson early on in your career. That must have been a great experience because Don's a great guy. Not only is he a great guy, but he's a great fighter, great champion, legend. You fought this guy in Japan. You fought him early on in your career. You became good friends with Don Wilson. I'm talking about through your whole career. From what I remember, you guys were very good friends. Uh, but I think that fight that you had with him it was another one of those stepping stones that gave you confidence, that motivated you to become better. And probably after that initial loss that you had against him, you came back to the drawing board, and it must have been great because it gave you a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I was one of them kind of guys that fighting. I just talk a lot. I just tell people that I'm gonna hurt him and do all that kind of stuff there because you know um, it was a good. I mean, when I saw Don, man, I mean, he listened. He asked me, "Hey, James, do you want to eat lunch with me?" I said, "No, that's all right." Because of football, you don't eat lunch with a person that you in a
Yeah,
fight that week.
you were taught that mindset,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Don was coming from another angle.
yeah. I my concept. Nah, you leave that. You say nice things to the guy, but and I'm saying in my head, so you know what, man, you just don't know. I'm here to beat you, not eat lunch with you. But it was good. I mean, it was really good. I did not eat lunch with him,
I think he invited you, right? He invited you to eat afterwards or something. But
yeah,
he was a gentleman. He's a gentleman, man.
He was a great.
Don is a great guy, man.
Great Don. You know what? It was Don. When we fought, and I mean, he was really. I mean, Don was really good. I mean, Don was kicking good, punching good, and then he knocked me down. I think twice or once, and I forgot how many rounds. I forgot, but the fight went back and forth. And Don was, Don was really good. He was a good guy, good guy to fight.
But you were an athlete, man. So, like a lot of people don't understand what it takes to go 10, 11 rounds, 12 rounds with somebody like Don, and
but that guy was, Don had something that
Don was tricky. Don was tricky.
Yeah, he was tricky. He had good.
Don would switch sides. He's a lefty for 1 second, then he's a righty, and he's all over the place, and you don't know where he's coming from. So
yeah,
very
he
tricky.
Had good hands. He had good hands. He kick you. Yeah. He'll lean back so far back and throw a heel kick of you. Then he'll lift his leg up and walk you around and a kick, and you moving around. Then he'll throw a side kick, hard side kick. But I learned a lot. That same kick that he did to me, I learned how to do that kick, and I like that kick.
Well, that's how it is. I think you learn more from when you have a loss.
Yes.
You learn more from that loss because you go over it in your brain. What did I do wrong? You study. When you win, sometimes, I did everything like I do all the time and I won. You don't have to think about anything. When you lose, man, your brain starts working. Why did I lose? Why did I do this? How could I improve? How could I get better? And I think sometimes, man, losses are what defines a champion.
Hey, that word you just said, when I lost against Don Wilson, that was the best loss I ever had in my life. And people might think I'm crazy when I say that, because I know that Don had so much. He has so many fights, better than me. Yeah. I might have only 4 or 5 fights or 6 fights, but still, I'm not excusing none at all. If it was 10 or 11, but Don was so advanced. Yeah. What he could do. I learned so much with Don Wilson. It was unreal. That was the best loss that I had for myself, and I would credit that for the rest of my life.
No, I'm glad you do, man, because that is how you learn, is from your losses and get better from that. So tell me now, you go on and you actually fight. You get an opportunity to fight for a world title, and you win your first world kickboxing title, I believe, in Mexico. And you fight, you go in and you fight Don Nielsen.
Yes.
Don Nielsen for that first WKA world title that you win. So this is your first world title that you get the privilege to hold and win. What do you remember about that fight?
Okay, I give some credit to Don, Don brother that gave me the. I signed with him, and I figured if I signed with him, I would get a fight pretty soon. And then what happened was, I signed with him, and I got a fight with Nelson.
Don Nielsen.
Yeah, Don Nelson. I got a fight with him. And that was one of the best fights, that I had for the first time. But Nielsen fight, I still remember him, but I thought he came out with some good techniques. He was a big guy.
He was fighting a lot in Japan and different places.
But with me, one thing I do and I learn from other people, like with Don and everybody else I learn with, I always take a technique and try to be the best. And I look in the mirror, I say, okay, if I do this, where my hands at? I make sure that my hands are in the right place. And then Nelson, with him was a good fight.
You caught him with a knee or something?
Yeah, I caught him. What I did, I was throwing a roundhouse kick, but I brought my knee, like it's throwing. It looked like I'm throwing a front kick, but then I changed my leg over. And then what happened? He rushed in, and my knee hit him right in the middle of his stomach. It wasn't my fault, but he went down and got counted out. He got counted out. Second world
title. And
my second.
You must have been happy about that.
I was pretty happy for that. But I didn't think much about it because, but it was but these guys. I mean, every guys that I fought, and with Nelson too. But them guys were really good too. They were good guys. So.
Knowing the type of guy you are, for a lot of people, winning a world championship, oh man, I reached the pinnacle. But for you, it was like you probably wanted to accomplish more, and it was like, okay, I won this fight, no big deal. When somebody else might say, wow, you're a world champion now. But I got a feeling, knowing who you are, this probably even motivated you more. Like you weren't finished with this. You had a lot of fights still on the horizon or a lot of things that you wanted to accomplish, So I think that just like your loss in this win here, you probably went right back to the drawing board to just want to continue on and see what else was there for you in the future.
I didn't have to, I had people like, Don, brother, I mean, he set up for me, like a couple of fights for me anyway. But I didn't really think, I mean, to me, I don't know why. I mean, it might sound crazy. I'm not conceding like that. But when I fight somebody, for the belt or when I fought for a new belt, oh yes, I want to win it, but I never thought it went this far. The way I'm talking now.
Yeah.
Now what I have, I look at it and what you just said, it made me seem like man, you did a lot of something that you didn't really care about. I love football, and I always tell people that. Football was a game.
You cared about football so much, and it kind of like left a little thing in you, and that thing is what drove you to become so successful at kickboxing,
right?
Boxing later on, and even MMA.
Yeah, I stayed in shape, man, and I worked hard. I got up early in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. I go run my 4 miles and come do my drills, and when I come back, run the sprints, and that's what I did. To keep myself ready to go. I always kept myself in good shape in case I get a call for 1 week or 2 weeks before a fight. I keep myself in some kind of shape, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And stuff like that.
Hey, I'm going to shift a little bit from your career. We're gonna get back to your career, but I want to get to this here. Tell us about becoming a coach at Tropical Park. You became a coach in the early '80s at Tropical Park Boxing Center. A lot of people don't know this either. You're working side by side with guys like Dwayne Simpson, Dave Clark, Jimmy Navarro. I met you at this time in the very early '80s. I started training there at Tropical Park, but that was a magical time when you were the coach, and all of these guys were also coaches there too. And man, I remember Russell Watson training at Tropical Park, Alexis Arguello, Robert Duran. Those were good times, man. Good times, early '80s, Tropical Park Boxing Center.
Yeah, you know what? What's so good about it? I came over there because Russell Watson told me, "Hey, man, it's a good place to go learn how to box." And then I went. Hold on 1 second. My dog.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay, James. No big deal.
Oh man, I forgot now.
Russell Watson took you there.
Yeah. Russell Watson took me there. Took me at Tropical Park.
Okay.
And when he took me there, I told the guy I want to learn how to box, right?
Yeah.
I told Dwayne that, and Dwayne said, "Okay, but you got to start, at the basics." And everybody look at me and said, "Man, you're a world champion kickboxer," something like that. But I didn't think much about that because I didn't. I didn't mind to go start from the bottom and then work myself up, and that's what happened. Dwayne taught me, Dwayne taught me, and Jimmy
good basic boxing fundamentals,
right. And then when I got better, Dwayne asked me if I want to work there, and I said yes, I want to work there. And then I said to myself, man, I got the key there.
Yeah.
I got all the bags there.
You got it made.
I got it made. I can
Yeah.
train anytime I want to, you know?
I remember Russell. Russell was a tough guy, man. Russell was a tough guy. I remember Russell. Man, I remember so many people training at Tropical Park. I remember, for example, Carlos Monzon, Argentinian champion.
Yes.
You know, who was a great champion back in the day. I remember him hitting the bag at Tropical Park. And he was about as tall as you, fighting in middleweight.
Middleweight, yeah, he was great. But you know what? We have so many good people. I mean, you get to say Alexa Grader, Duran, Trevor Burbett.
I remember Mike McCollum, the body snatcher.
Yeah.
He was a great fighter, man.
Yes.
I remember him training at Tropical Park.
Yeah. I mean, I learned, remember, I had an opportunity to sit there and watch these guys train, right? And these guys were like, grown men. I was still, I was young, but not that young. But still, I learned a lot how they train.
That's why I'm saying teachers come at different times in your life. Right. And I think when you transitioned to Tropical Park, it was something else that you needed to learn from that place, from the people training there at that particular time.
Yeah.
You know?
But I was one of the lucky ones, man, because, a lot of guys say, James, stop kickboxing. Go to boxing. I said, no, man, I'm a kickboxer. Trevor Burbett said the same thing, say the same thing to me, and I thought Burbett was lying. You know what? He passed away now, but Burbett won that line. He said, James, I cannot hit you. And but it was good that he said that to me.
Hey, I remember this. I remember right before the 1984 Olympics, the whole U.S. Olympic boxing team came to visit Tropical Park for about a week or two. I remember you personally driving them around, I'm talking about guys like Holyfield, Biggs, Pernell Whitaker, Virgil Hill, Meldrick Taylor. We're talking about a who's who of boxing that was training at Tropical Park for 2 weeks. These guys went on to become superstars, most of them world champions in professional boxing. But this was right before they won their gold medals in the Olympics, so that's the type of people that used to train at Tropical Park back in those days. I remember you taking them around in the county bus or the Tropical Park bus, and that must have been an experience.
That was a great experience, because I had to drive there to Miami Beach, to pick them up. Then I had to bring them all the way back to Tropical Park, and then when they got finished training, I took them back. And Holyfield was like, a really nice guy, man, real be honest with you. And Whitaker too. And Whitaker was an excellent guy too.
Yeah, unfortunately, Whitaker passed away.
Yeah. But that he did pass away. And I mean, them guys were really nice. I wouldn't say kids, but they was kids to me.
I remember looking at them training, and I was learning, the interval training type of stuff they were doing. And even like I talked with you about training methods, a lot of people think, just spar every day really hard. Like these people bring like the Philly, like in Philadelphia, they used to spar hard all the time. But these people were like starting to bring a new science to the fight game.
Right.
They would still spar hard. Don't misunderstand that. But they were bringing a little bit of intelligence as to how often to spar, or how the intensity or the volume of sparring, and even the interval training was something that everybody was doing back in those days with boxing training.
Yeah, but them guys were doing it the right way. The guys that are doing it now, I watch them doing it. They're not doing it the right way. But back then, they had like 2-minute drills. You know what I'm saying? And they had like, we call it speed training. With hitting the bag, and they do different, different punches, maybe 6 or 7 different punches. They do, in each round. But
you learn from everywhere, man. Even
right.
you have your coaches, but you're always learning. I remember going with you to see Sugar Ray Leonard
Oh yeah,
training over there in North Miami Beach.
yeah,
And back in the day, he was making that comeback when he, I think he had that detached
yeah.
retina.
Yeah, touch yeah,
Tommy Hearns at the Eden Rock, we went to see that when he's
yes,
training for Hagler. You
right,
know,
right. But
you're always
you know,
picking up things. You know.
yeah, but at Sugar Ray Leonard, what when he was sparring and he put that that martial art headgear on. You remember the one that like an
Oh,
eggshell,
the
the wrap,
jewelry,
the red?
the
Yeah,
jewelry
yeah,
headgear. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And that was a good headgear to be honest with you, man.
Yeah,
You
because
think about
it
it.
was lighter than
The
the
lighter
leather ones.
and sponge, it was nice and spongy and stuff like that. Sugar Ray was a good fighter. And then you listen to Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, he really don't. I mean, he don't. When I saw him sparring, he was sparring with somebody lighter than him.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and that guy had
Very smart, very
right,
smart for sure.
right. Yeah, he didn't fight where another guy could bang him hard. He just wanted to get in good shape. That's it. You know.
My favorite guy jumping rope was always Roberto Duran.
Oh
But
yes.
seeing Sugar Ray Leonard jump rope to jazz,
Yeah.
and he was swift with the jumping rope, and those two guys jumping rope were my favorites. You know, like when it came to
Yeah.
jumping rope. And
He was
man.
he's a guy.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no. I mean, he was. I mean, them guys is real pros, man, and it was good. It was good what they did.
So getting back a little bit to your fight career, your kickboxing
Okay.
career, you fight a guy in his hometown, big bad Brad Hefton. A lot of people don't know you fought this guy, and you won a decision over him in his hometown. What do you remember about fighting Big Bad? This guy went on to become a very popular fighter, PKA champion, was on ESPN every Friday, but you beat him. Every time they introduced his record, there was one loss on his record, and it was to James Waring. What do you remember about that fight?
You know what? When I was in college, I did 1 point karate tournament.
Yeah.
And I remember fighting that guy, but I know I didn't know I forgot his name, but I said, man, when I went to fight him for full contact fighter, back in Chicago, Illinois, and when I fought him, I said, wow, he looked like the same guy who I fought a long time ago.
You fought in a tournament, yeah.
Yeah, tournament. No, it was a good fight. I mean, I didn't see the video because I would I got I didn't see the video after that, but I saw a lot of things that he was doing because he was more like a martial art guy.
Yeah,
I mean, he would fight like a martial art, a real step behind sidekick, and step behind. I mean,
he was a very decent fighter. I thought he packed a wall. He punched pretty hard. And he threw some strong kicks.
No, he needs some good sidekicks. He does some really hard sidekicks.
Good sidekicks, yes.
But some reason I saw it coming. Or I mean, I saw the thing coming. No, he was a good fighter. I mean, he was a great fighter. And I fought him at his hometown. And this way,
if you win there. You win there in the hometown.
Yeah, I mean, some reason I don't know why I do make people look bad when I fight. But don't ask me why, how, but but Brad Hassel was an excellent fighter. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I always see him on TV, and they always tell me how great he is. And I say, I beat this guy already. But you know how it go when you have TV, then they know who they like and they don't like. You understand?
So here's another guy a lot of people don't know you fought. Yes. A lot of people don't know you fought this guy to a draw. But this guy isn't just anybody. This guy is Maurice Smith. He was a multiple-time kickboxing world champion. And aside from that, he later on became the UFC champion. You fought him to a draw, I believe in Canada, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, in Canada, yes.
And man, I don't know if what you remember, like some of these fights, they're hard to get on tape, you know, and I don't know if anybody has these fights on tape, but you fought this guy who was a very respected kickboxing world champion. Anybody that's in kickboxing knows who Maurice Smith is, and you fought him to a draw. And what do you remember about that fight? That was a tough fight.
Yeah, it was a tough fight, but I went to his hometown. I mean, he had a lot of fights in Canada.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
I went there to fight him there, and really, all the fights, man, that we had. I mean, I had with the first round, all kind of. Maurice Smith was really good. He had an excellent coach too.
Oh yeah, he's got a
I
great
didn't even bring right. I didn't even not bring a coach there. I came there by myself, and I got a coach from from there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the guy was telling me what to do because he saw Maurice Smith fight. He saw Maurice Smith fight, and he told me what to do. I didn't have no train. I mean, I didn't have no trainers, man. But
I got a feeling that fight with Maurice Smith, the times I've talked to you about it,
yeah,
it was similar to the Don Wilson fight in that it motivated you to learn even more. Like, okay, I got to work on this. I got to work on that. You fought him to a draw, but you came back probably wanting to go back to the drawing board again and fix whatever little thing you think you could improve upon. And
but you know what?
That's another one of those fights.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll tell you something. And I really told him, when they say a draw, to the fight, right?
Yeah.
You know what? I told Maurice Smith, man, I think he beat me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I said, I think he beat me. I mean, that's the
type of guy you are. You probably weren't happy with, you were going there probably for the win, and when it wasn't what you were expected.
Right, but Maurice Smith was a good fight. I learned from Maurice Smith to Don Wilson. Man, I learned a lot from both of them fights.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But Maurice Smith was a great fighter, man.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm telling you, I'm telling you from what I fought. I fought Maurice Smith,
yes.
and I would say anytime. And I'm not that old. I'm still old, but Maurice Smith, I thought the fight was, he won, but they gave it as a draw, But Maurice
a lot of other fighters would say something like that.
You know what? I would
James Warings, he will say something like
that. No, hey, I'm gonna tell you honest, man. I always say that all my life, how good he was and all that kind of stuff there. You like Don Wilson, the Don, how good he is and stuff like that. But I learned a lot from that fight, from Maurice fight, But it was good. It was really good.
Here is a fight that, I want to talk about, which I believe it's a fight that was very monumental in your kickboxing career. And we're talking about when you fought Jerry Rome in Atlanta. And he was a champion, you were a champion, and two champions fought each other. And man, I know he caught you off guard early on in that fight, but you recovered and man, you really did really good in that fight. By the way, I had that fight on VHS. I downloaded it to YouTube. Anybody that wants to watch that fight, it wasn't on YouTube. Nobody had ever seen that fight. I'm so happy to be able to put that on YouTube because people are able to see one of these fights that that nobody has video of. But this one we got a video of. If anybody wants to see that fight, just look up James Waring and Jerry Rome. Tell us about that fight. What you remember about it? You guys were both champions.
Yeah, I got there. I think a Monday, and I had a flu for about 2 days. You know what I'm saying? Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And my coach told me, said, James, 3 days not gonna hurt you. You've been in shape and worked hard, for the fight. And that Thursday, then when the Thursday came, I felt a lot better. And the Saturday, Friday, I felt a lot better. Yeah. And I got over the flu. I'm not putting that in.
But the truth is the truth, man.
Yeah. But what happened was I had myself, my trainer, coach, Dave Clark, and I had Ali's Rizway, come with me, and this guy told me that he not and Joe Corley, I think it was Joe Corley, told me, oh, we're not paying for your coaches to eat or to have anything like that. I said, why? Oh, because they put down one person to get food, right? Yeah. That what made me so mad. I mean, made me really mad.
Hey, sometimes things motivate you. That's all you need is a
little motivation. And
it doesn't matter where it comes from.
Right.
Sometimes you even make it up in your brain just to motivate you to fight.
Yeah, but you know what? That right there will make it up for my brain. But you know what you say, it's true. So you tell yourself, certain things. But fighting Jerry Rome, I mean, when I saw the videotape, I said, man, he did hurt me the first round. I mean, I never saw it until you showed it to me.
Yeah.
And he did. He hit me with a good shot, and I'm glad that I knocked him out.
Jerry Rome was Jerry Rome was
But I always had in my head, because Jerry Rome had a lot of bad habits. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And me playing football and all that kind of stuff like that, and I had coaches, show me how to break down, like videotapes and how to look at people, when they're fighting and all. I'm not fighting, the training. Yeah. When I saw Jerry Rome, every time he throw a punch, he touched his gloves with it. He touched his hand to gloves.
Okay. So you timed that.
Oh yeah, and I timed that every time. He didn't like nobody throwing a jab to his eyes. Okay. He turned his head, man. Remember, a great world champion, a great fighter like him, turned his head, and then that's what I did.
Timed. I guess he was touching his gloves.
Yeah.
You were timing.
Yeah. And then if you take you put a pressure on him, if you go forward and throw a jab at his eyes, he freak out. Yeah. He some reason he don't even like that.
What I remember looking back at that fight after many years, because I had that on VHS. I hadn't seen it in a bunch of years.
Yeah.
When I put it on YouTube and looking at it after many years, I noticed your constant pressure, man. Even when you got clipped in the first round, that constant pressure was constant. Also, James, you were in great shape at that time.
Yes.
I think this was right before you
Yeah, I stayed in shape. Yeah. That's one thing I did. I learned, when, I don't want to say too much good things. Things I've done. I don't want to give away for free, but I'm going to have a book one day and I'll put it in there. But I used to run. I mean, I used to run in the morning and run in the afternoon, and I stayed in shape. I don't drink or smoke and do nothing like that. Yeah. So I always stayed in a good shape. But Jerry Rome, everybody said that he was the greatest. He was the greatest fighter, and he was the greatest fighter. He was better than, because he beat Brad Hefton. Remember, before
he beat Brad Hefton. He beat a bunch of other guys too, and
and then
he actually beat Brad Hefton, and he kind of like became the guy.
Yeah, and then I said to myself, okay, he beat Brad Hefton, and I beat Brad Hefton. Jerry Rome beat,
That's why that fight was so interesting.
Yeah.
Guys like me that are like kickboxing connoisseurs, man. I remember you training for that fight, getting prepared for that fight. And I knew that both of you guys had beaten Brad Hefton, because it was for many years, it was supposed to be you and Brad Hefton.
Yeah.
You were the WKA champion. Brad Hefton was the PKA champion. You had beaten him. So it only made sense that you and Brad Hefton fight each other. But then Jerry Rome beats Brad Hefton.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden things changed. So they made the fight between Jerry Rome and James Waring. And I'm glad you got the opportunity to, either one of those guys.
Right. I mean, I got an opportunity, and the fight was a good fight. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and it was good. I mean, it was meant to be what it meant to be, you know. And you know, I fought two good guys, and they say they were the best. And
well, me personally, I thought that was one of your better kickboxing fights, and
yeah,
you know, congratulations for that again.
yeah.
But tell us a little bit about putting your kickboxing career on hold or to the side a little bit and concentrating on boxing and ultimately becoming a boxing world champion, which very few kickboxers, I think Troy Dorsey is another guy that could say this, maybe a couple of Thai boxers that were Thai champions, and Lumpini also became boxing, but very few fighters, especially back then. You know, back then when you did it, Troy Dorsey did it, very few fighters held titles in world titles in kickboxing and boxing. And not only did you win a boxing world title, but you broke a record in winning that boxing title in 24 seconds, that was a feat in and of itself. So you broke many records the day you won that fight. I think it was Italy.
Yeah. You know what? It was, you know, that fight was a dream because I won the USBA boxing title first.
Okay.
And then a month later, they asked me, I think they asked me if I want to fight for the world title. And I told them, yes, I fight. And then I asked them how much money I'm getting. And they told me, I don't want to say I don't know how to say the number or not.
Hey, don't say. No, not important. But you know how important it is to win that title because what's going to come afterwards.
Right. But you know what? I fought him, and the guy came to my house and interviewed me first. He said, "What happened, Mr. Warren? If you lose, what are you gonna do?" And I looked at him in his face and said, "I'm not losing this fight, but you could. I'm not losing." And that's that mindset that you have.
That interview is also, I believe, on YouTube.
Yes.
And, I put that on YouTube.
Good.
Look at that interview. That guy tried to ask you 100 times, if you lose, how you lose. James wasn't having any of it. He kept saying, no, I'm not losing. That's the mindset that you got to have.
I had good, I mean, really, I'll be honest with you, man. My wife watched the videotape of the fight.
Yeah.
And I remember she watching it in the kitchen, right? The videotape of the fight. And she said, James, look at this. She would break the film down, and I was so shocked that I'm telling the truth. I'm not lying to you. My wife learned how to box. At the same time I learned how to box. Yeah. She was at Tropical Park too, right? And she broke the film down, and I said, what? And I looked at her. Everything she said was true. Now, my friends who I was training in my garage told me, James, this guy is bad, man. This guy got ripped, got big muscles and everything. And I said, man, man, you know, a lot of people born with muscles, you know? And I didn't say it that way, but that's why I'm saying to you. But I said, the muscles, what he got, don't mean that much to me, you know? But I broke it down. I mean, we watched that videotape. Everything my wife told me about it, man, I was shocked, man. You know,
I remember Jeannie training at Tropical Park, man. Those are good times, man. I remember her hitting the bag.
Yeah, but you know, fighting that fight at fighting him for that world title boxing match. You know, like I told you, I had a dream, but I'm gonna keep it short. I had a dream, you know, and if you believe in God or Jesus, I believe in God and I believe in Jesus. Yes. And when I was sleeping. And he came and gave me the belt. God gave me Jesus gave me the belt.
It was destiny. It was meant to be.
Right. He gave me the belt. And I looked around. I looked sideways. I told him, turn around, who you are. He turned around. And he didn't, I didn't see his face. I saw him a nice long road. And be honest with you, man, I didn't tell nobody, never that. I didn't tell nobody that, that story, right? At all. Before the fight, like 2 hours before the fight, I said, James, you got to fight the first fight. It's a big storm coming in, right?
Yeah.
And I said, I'm ready. I told him, I said, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And guess what? I fought the first fight. And when I fought the first fight, I didn't tell nobody about it. When we got in the ring, when we got inside the ring, right? We were moving around and stuff like that. You know how you move around and get nervous and thing out of you. And then next thing you know, I had my coaches with me. I had all the coaches that I had all my career. That's who I had in the ring with me, right? Yeah. And with the other guy told me that he'll punch me now. I said, you punch me, I'm gonna kick you right in the face. And I was serious what I was saying, right? And that fight, I mean, when the guy fighted, when they called the guy, in the middle of the ring, and the referee was saying this and that, right? Then we walked back to our corner. Then what you do? You shake each coach's hand. Okay.
It was when like I
right. No, it's not a dream. This is the fight now. Okay, this is the fight. I get to and the guy, the fight said, coach, the referee said, ready? Then you walk out there and you put your hands out.
Yeah.
You put your hands out and you touch the glove, and then the bell rang, man. Only thing I remember, moving around. I move around and I throw 3 jabs at his eye. And I throw a right hand. I look at the right hand now. I think the right hand was a sloppy right hand. But I hit him with that right hand, and he went down. And when he went down and his leg was shaking, I know he was out.
Yeah.
And I was lucky. It was 24 seconds.
Not only do you become a boxing world champion, but you get a record in momentarily. I don't know if anybody beat it since that time.
Yeah.
But then you get a double whammy on that day. You get another record of holding the fastest knockout in title, which that must have been great. Listen, I remember going to the airport, Miami International, with a group of guys from Tropical Park, waiting for you to come back to the States after you won that title. And man, everybody was really happy for you back then, man.
I remember that. I remember that day, and I'm gonna say thank you, man. Thank you to all the guys who came out there, and that was one of the best things that I ever felt. And that was it's still this winning a boxing title, man. That's people understand boxing is hard,
can take
man.
that away from you.
Hey, boxing is a hard sport. You can say what you.
Nobody can take that away from you, no matter what.
Yeah, but it was It was a good fight. I'm glad I fought him, and I'm glad I had great people around me.
Yeah.
I didn't do it by myself, but I had real good people around me.
Good, man. Listen, a lot of people might not know this, but you worked in a movie called Bloodfist in the Philippines with Don Wilson.
Yeah.
And a host of other legendary fighters, man. I'm talking about guys like Maurice Smith, Timothy Baker, Richard Hill. Of course, Don was the main guy.
Yeah,
but man, that was something great that you experienced, and I'm glad Don thought of you guys to bring you on board for that Bloodfist too. How was that? What do you remember about that?
But you know what I remember about that? What Don said of his word. He was a man of his word, just like a fighter.
Yeah.
And he said, James, if I ever make it, I'm going to bring all us together. And you know what? He brought all us together, all champions. And I don't know what videotape or what movie you ever saw in your lifetime to have that many champions.
Yeah.
And that many champions that fought and won world titles.
Yeah.
That that
He
did.
brought, he brought a lot of people together. I think a
Yeah.
lot of his films he does that. And
Yeah. Don,
I'm
Don's a great
glad
guy,
that
man.
he was
That's a
able to
great,
bring
excellent
on
guy.
you guys.
Yeah, Don is an excellent guy. And what his word was, he did tell the truth, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was good for me.
Yeah. I'm glad that happened too, man.
Me too. I'm glad it happened too.
Yeah. So listen, a lot of people ask me about this fight you had back in the early 90s. This is back when this sort of something called UWF in Japan. It was like things were going on in the shoot fighting world or the shoot boxing world in Japan, where boxers would meet wrestlers. I don't know if you remember the famous fight between Muhammad Ali and Antonio Inoki, and they had to set up the rules a little differently. You went in 91 and you fought a guy named Billy Scott. And, you know, there's a lot of stories to what was supposed to transpire, because some of the fights back then, some of them were work fights, some of them were real fights. Kind of like when you went to Japan, you didn't know what you were getting yourself into until you actually got into the ring and actually fought sometimes. But you told me a couple of times that you even met the guy before the fight. You guys kind of like trained a little bit. It was supposed to be something, but then it turned out to be something else. What do you personally remember about that fight? I'm talking about 1991. You had won the boxing world title, and this was like something that they offered you. You went for it. People were even talking back then. You possibly could fight Tommy Hearns. So the last thing you want to do is get hurt in Japan doing a fight on the side, you know, for something that could jeopardize your boxing career. What do you remember about that fight?
I mean, you know what? I got in the fight, and what I got told from my manager or what it was Chip told me, not my real boxing manager. Okay, and but when I got there, I think on a Tuesday or Wednesday, right? And that Thursday, Billy, I think that's the name, right? Billy,
Scott,
right?
Billy Scott.
Yeah, Billy Scott. Yeah.
Yeah.
And his training came to.
He was a good fighter, actually. A respected guy. You know?
Right. He came to me and asked, "Hey, why you guys, train a little bit, spar a little bit, nice and easy, not hard, nice and easy." And that's what we did. We sparred a little bit, moving around, doing this right here, and he was trying to take my feet. I don't know. He was trying to, test me or something like that.
Ties you up.
Yeah, no, but he was good at it. I mean, he wasn't going crazy. And then I was throwing punches, I was throwing, easy punches and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And then, we I don't know how many rounds we did. We did maybe 5 rounds, 6 rounds, or something like that. And then he was testing
the fight.
Yeah, before the fight, because the fight was on I think the fight was on a Saturday or Friday, right? But when we went the first round, when we went out there, and I throw a right hand, he walked right into the right hand, and he got knocked down. Right? Yeah. It's okay. He got knocked down. And then when I got back to my corner, Chip told me, take it easy, don't hurt him. That's what he told me, right? Yeah. But if he think he won a fight against me, James Waring, after the fight, I sit there and told the if not because I was mad, I told them, hey, the fight supposed to be a draw. Yeah. Okay. And then that's why I took it.
This was a time period, just for the people out there to know, this was a time period before the UFC, when they used to have these. I think Trevor Berbick was the main event of this fight, fighting also another wrestler. He got kicked in the legs and stuff. But you could, like the Muhammad Ali Antonio Inoki fight, where you could grab the ring to stop the fight, to stand back up. But those were the rules.
That's the rules, man.
People didn't know. UFC wasn't even in the Hoist Gracie, none of that. Nobody knew about that yet. And this was people mixing matches before the UFC came on board. And yeah, that's typically what some of these fights were like, different rules. It's hard to prepare for something that you don't really, nobody's even thinking it's a sport. You're just going to go in there. You had fought in probably a bunch of tough man competitions, so you're ready for anything. But you got to adapt to the situation as it presents itself.
You know what? I took their word. You know the word was? The fight will be a draw at the end. Okay, who they did. That's what they told me. And that's what I believe. Now, if the people don't believe it, then you know what, man? You can say what you want to say, because I know how I believe it. What they told me. They told me they were words. That's what they told me. If I were
that's happened to a lot of people
but you know what? Yeah. Hey, if he feel good about it for all the years, let him feel good. I mean, I feel good about it too, all the years. But you know, man, I got nothing against him, because it's not the fighter. Yeah. It's what the trainer told me this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not the fighter. And you know what? And he did his job, and I did my job. You know. But I did told my my knee up, but I'm not making excuses.
Everybody sweated that one, because you were in the middle of you had just won your boxing title, and you decided to do this crazy thing in Japan.
You know what? It was crazy. You know what? It was crazy. That was stupid for me. Yeah. I should have never did it.
But then I think you defended your title. You had a knee brace on.
Yes, I did.
Because of that fight in Japan.
No. I had. It took me two months to get a knee brace. I think 2 months. But you know what? Hey, give Billy some some credit.
No. From what I hear, the guy was a real deal, a wrestler, wrestler, a strong guy.
Yeah. You want to give him credit? Go ahead. You know what? Hey, Billy, you looking at me now. You know that we did that before the fight. There's no way in heck that two fighters is going to spar together 2 days before the fight.
Yeah, exactly. Those are little things people don't know about.
Yeah. But Billy, you know what? I'm not saying nothing bad about you, but you know what, man?
He was a nice guy. He was a good fighter.
You're a quiet guy. You're a nice guy. You're a nice guy. I think you're a nice guy. Don't worry. Yeah. But it's not. It wasn't him. Yeah. But hey, go ahead.
I know you defended your title a couple of times. I want to talk about 1996. You're asked to fight in something called the World Combat Championships. You got a bunch of people fighting on this card. That this was like 2 or 3 years after the UFC. So MMA is still like, it doesn't have the unified rules yet in place. This is like more like Vale Tudo, where almost everything goes, man. Anything from grabbing hair to kicking people on the ground. But, they had 2 divisions coming up. You had people in there like Renzo Gracie, Eric Paulson, Bart Vale, just a bunch of people. And you made it to the finals. You ultimately lost to Renzo Gracie. But, man, I think this was another time in your career where you fought in this big event and you didn't do bad at all. You did pretty good. You made it. Listen, I remember talking to you before this fight, and I started telling you about Tom Jackson, who's a guy that trained with me with Jack Williams at where I was training judo. And I go, James, let's train a little bit of anti-grappling, if anything, because these people are going to be trying to take you to the ground. And I remember hooking up with you and Tom Jackson. You came over to Miami-Dade College. We trained once or twice. Then we went to your school with Tom Jackson. And we trained on mostly sprawling, how to avoid the takedown. But, this was like a month before this World Combat Championship. So, but I think if you would have had time to train grappling for a long time, you would have done good. I mean, I know it was later on in your career, but you would have done good in MMA if you would have had time to assimilate and train grappling, you know, the athlete that you were, you could have probably done good in MMA, but you had a month or two to get ready for this. And it's hard sometimes to learn things that quickly, but you did good, man. You got second place. You lost to Renzo Gracie, but hey, it is what it is. You know, you had some long matches, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that was, you know, like you said, I fought in a striker division. Then they had a grapple division,
Yeah.
and then I won the you know, the striker division.
Yeah.
You know, I beat two guys, but the
Eric Paulson fight. That fight was a long fight because I think you knocked out the first guy, but then the Eric Paulson fight, that went to decision, but that was something else too, because you guys were against that fence. You were holding on to his hair.
Oh yes,
remember that?
It was legal.
It was legal.
It was legal.
A lot of people talk about, hey, you know, that's, but you know, a lot of people don't remember that was legal. I remember Royce Gracie holding on to Chemo's hair back in the day. So these early type of MMA fights, things like that were very legal for sure.
Yeah. You know what? The guy who I fought the first time, I was sitting in and we were eating lunch or dinner, something like that. Then I saw the guy order 2 beer. Yeah. He ordered two beer to a drink, and I said to myself, "There's no way in heck this guy drinking 2 beers before the fight, and he gonna beat me with 2 beers because I don't drink or smoke anyway." Right? Yeah. And I said, "Man, he not gonna beat me." You know what? that motivated me. That
either motivates you or scares the hell out of you.
No, that motivated me, man. Serious. You know what? I was, you know, I figure when you work out and train, you should train the right way. You know, but I get a chance, and I got a chance to stop him in with the fight. You know, I think what helped me really was the boxing. The boxing was. You know, that's what helped me. Yeah. And the other guy I fought, the one that went, I think it was 20 minutes. I think that fight went. 16 minutes.
Paulson.
Yeah.
I know it was a long fight. I don't remember right now the time, but that was a long fight. You guys were. He was trying
he fought. Yeah. Eric was. He was good. I mean,
he was a respected shoot fighting champion, shoot boxer, world champion in shoot boxing, and jiu-jitsu black belt, shoot fighter, Danny Dos Santos student. He's very respected.
I didn't know that. I didn't know how respected he was, but just being honest with myself and anybody for the day that I fought him, he was really tough.
Very tough, yeah.
Now he took. I mean, he really took it. I don't know if he. You know, I never saw him fight before. I don't know if you ever saw me. I don't know if you saw me fight before, but he was a really good fighter, man. And you're right. I did pull his hair. I mean, it was legal. He had tape around his. Legal. It was legal. Right. It was legal. I mean, but I wrapped my hand around there, and I was, you know, when you take the hair, the body go with the head. You know. Exactly. But you know what, man?
I think you were doing like some little inside dirty fighting with everyone, and I think that's where you were scoring your points, if you even want to call it that. But you know, both of you guys are respected guys, you know, respected champions. But you moved on. You moved on to the finals, but you went into the finals. You were a little tired. Like I'm not making.
No, I was. But you. No. I'm making excuses now. What you're saying? I wasn't tired. I was cramping up so bad in the locker room.
Yeah.
But don't make that excuse. The guy that won the fight.
Yeah.
The guy that won the fight, and he was a great fighter. And really, when he put me down in the back, I try to come up one time. Yeah. I was cramping up. I'm not making no excuse for that.
No, you're talking Hanzo, and you're talking with the guy that really knows submissions on the ground. You can't make a mistake with him.
Yeah, he was a great fighter. Hey, I learned a lot. You know what I said? And I said,
exactly.
I did say to myself, man, if I train no longer, I'd be a little better.
Well, it
But you
goes
know what,
back to
man?
what I was telling you. If you
Right,
can't learn
right.
grappling in 1 month, but
Yeah. My ego was crazy. That's what it was.
that's a fighter's mentality, man.
Yeah. My ego was
The
crazy.
fighter's
But you know what?
mentality.
I mean, the last two fights I had, I mean, the Eric Poster fight, me and him, I
Yeah.
know a lot of things going on, a lot of things was doing, different things we was doing. Yes, we were grabbing the ropes, the rings, all that kind of stuff. It was legal. But
Yeah.
you know what, man? They took that fight there, and Eric should be I'm happy. I didn't know I didn't know the story. They took that fight and they
Yeah.
say, okay, the UFC, you cannot do this, and this, and this, and this.
Yeah.
They changed all the rules.
Later on, when we worked in the commission, they unified the rules and they changed them. Then, even though even
Yes,
the early rules, even when it was starting to look like what it looks today, even a lot of people don't know
right.
that. Like early 2000, they would change the rules
Yeah,
every once in a while, and until now, the rules that we have in place for
right.
MMA. But, okay, so basically, after your boxing career and kickboxing and MMA career was over, one thing I remember you always used to tell me, especially back then in the kickboxing days, you used to tell me, Hector, when I retire from this, man, I'm gonna open up a gym. And that's exactly what you did. You opened up a big kickboxing center, a big karate school. And man, I remember going to this school various times, and man, you had a lot of people at your school training under you. I know you had a boxercise class, a kickbox aerobics. You had students that you were training kickboxing. What do you remember about those days, having that school, running that school?
No, what I know, man, I love to give back. Give back to the younger kids.
Yeah.
Because when I was coming up, man, my parents didn't have money to pay for anything, and I make sure that the price that I had was, would help a lot of kids. And then what we did, we had another program that we taught kids, to help kids with their homework and all that kind of stuff there, like after school program. We did that.
Yeah.
And that's helped us. That helped us out a lot.
Yeah.
Doing that. And like right now, like we talking right now, them kids that used to come, them kids went to college already. Them kids are so good and so happy, and I see them once in a while.
You were part of that. You were part of them coming
Yes.
up, and like all
Yeah.
those
I
stories
mean,
you say
it
about the
was
people
good.
that helped you along the way. There's people that
Right.
say the same thing about James Waring. You were involved in these grants where you working with after school kids for many years also.
Right.
I know you
Yeah.
did that and still do to this day.
Right. Yeah, but you know what? Miguel Diaz and Dennis Moss, them guys, them the one that helped me out a lot to start my program. Now we doing it. We in the Northwest section now. We be doing that on Northwest section 14 years.
Wow.
And we did it at the one at 120th Street. I think we did it about 8 years, something like that.
Wow.
Already.
Wow.
But when I went to the Northwest section, I told the guy, I said, hey, I cannot charge the parents, because why are you going to charge a parent back then, and you're going to argue to a parent for $20 or $30 a week? I'm not going to do that, And then it really worked out really good. We have the kids now. We had different kids, for a long time, And so for me, I'm so happy that I have my wife and my daughter here now, doing the work, and we have a couple of staff that help us out, and we have different sponsors and all that kind of stuff to help us out. And I don't want to give them the name because I don't think it's nice for me to give a person name, but the people know that I'm talking about it. They help me out a lot to make sure the kids are have a nice Christmas time,
So
a happy
give
end of
it
the
back to
year.
the community, man.
Right,
That's what
right.
it's all about.
Yeah,
You
I,
know?
I I really love what we did,
Yeah.
and I still remember me, and sometimes I go overboard. Sometimes I give other people too good a deal, and they expected me to give that back to them again another day. But I'm on to think about what the man on top, God, did it for me and my family and everybody else, and I think that's what you should do. It's not
That's
like you're
good,
looking
man.
for.
And it's a
Yeah.
good feeling inside to help back, help back the community.
Right, right. I mean, I love it. Heck, it was something. It was something
Yeah.
good. It's still good right now. We haven't right done. We're still working on that right now. In a way, it's really good.
So listen, man, tell me about the years working for the Florida State Boxing Commission. I know you've been involved in both refereeing boxing, kickboxing, MMA, and when the whole thing with the MMA started, they formed this little committee, and from the very beginning, you called me, you said, "Hey man, I want you to be part of this." And I really appreciate you bringing me on board when the state of Florida decided to legalize MMA. And a lot of people were learning, what the rules were or how the rules were even changing back then. So I want to thank you for bringing me on to the Florida State Boxing Commission back then. Um, what do you remember about working all those years, man? Because I know you started working as a boxing referee, and you did that for many years, but then this MMA came through, and you were right there dead in center. You got me on board. A couple of other people came on board. What do you remember about after your fight game's over? Now you're refereeing fights. You're refereeing boxing. You're refereeing kickboxing. You're refereeing MMA. Those are good times. Listen, we had a lot of great times at the War Memorial. Jeannie was a judge back in the day.
Yeah.
And I remember it was good times, man. We had some good
I,
times.
I had to know when I lost against oh man, my first I think that was my third defense. I forgot the guy name. I forgot his name, but when I fought him and then he headbutted me, and then the referee said, to us, said that it wasn't a headbutt, it was a punch, right? And it wasn't a punch, but it was a headbutt. But I told myself, I said, when I referee, I'm gonna be a good referee. And be honest with you, when I came in to Florida boxer, into Florida, referees, them referees back then, the older guys, were so good.
Yeah.
They know. I mean, they were so good. They taught me well, man.
You learn from a bunch of different people.
Yeah, from there. Them guys there at the boxing part, they were great. Great referees, man. They was one of the best. You know
who I trained with in boxing for a while? Bill Connors. You remember him?
Bill Connors was great with me, man.
Remember Bill Connors, Big Bill Connors?
Yeah. He was good, man.
He used to have an amateur program in Hialeah, and I started training with him, Juanito, George Ortiz. But I remember he used to referee too, back in the day.
Yeah, but you know what? Everybody, them guys taught me. Them guys taught me, man. They taught me so well, and that's why I'm not scared. I always say to people, when you do something new and you don't know nothing about it, you should bring other people in to tell you what to do and tell other people what to do. And like when you came, you was a friend of mine. We trained together. You know what I'm saying? And I know that you was doing that, and I know how honest you are. You know what I'm saying? And you help me. You help us out, man. You help me out. Yeah, I need a question to ask you about a hole or doing this here. You made me a better referee.
Well, we help each other out, man. We help each other out. One thing I liked always about you.
That's why, what I learned from you.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, one thing I always liked about you being a referee that you had safety in mind. I remember one time a guy coming into the ring, and you're the fighter. The referee checks, the fighter's gloves and stuff, and this guy had some long fingernails, and in boxing, if you got the boxing glove and your hands covered, it doesn't really matter. But in MMA, you're grappling and you got long, and you had somebody like cut them nails down real quick because you were always looking for potential danger or safety things that I'm not saying all referees do this, but you were always on top of that, and it's great that you were, because there was a lot of people that were trying to get away with certain things that shouldn't get away with.
Right. Hector, one thing I learned as a referee, and I always say that I want to be an honest referee. I want to make sure that, when a fighter come in, I don't even want to know his name. I don't want to know their name, because why? I want to treat him the same way I treat everybody.
Yeah. James, listen, I can't let you escape from this last question. Tell me about this modeling gig you had going on, my brother. This was something that you had mentioned it to me a couple of times, but man, I'm looking at some of these pictures, man. Back in the day, man, I'm talking about advertisements with bird eyes. You did a bunch of episodes with Miami Vice. Man, I remember you doing a lot of these modeling gigs. Come on. The goods, James. What was that all about?
One of my friends, Tim Bradley, he didn't want to told me about it. James, it's not that many African Americans are going to modeling. And then I went there and I got lucky. And then I started doing some pictures and a little book and all that kind of stuff, and it got me in. It was real good. I liked it a lot.
Another thing you had to be disciplined at.
Yeah.
Another thing you had to be disciplined at. Be on time.
Oh God, you gotta make sure you. I always tell people, man, something like that, you gotta be on time. If they say 1 o'clock, you should be there at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. Because you know why? Something could happen. It could rain or something like that, and you gotta do something fast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
any final shout outs you want to make? I know you have a big family. I also want to congratulate you on becoming a grandfather again. And I personally want to thank you for being here with us today, sharing part of your illustrious career with us, sharing parts of your insights, everything you did before your fighting career, during your fighting career, and after your fighting career. So, man, I want to thank you once again for being here with us today.
Hey, I want to thank you, Hector, too. I mean, just knowing you as a friend, I want to thank you as our first one here, and I hope we do more, and I hope I sound good enough to do more.
Sound good to me, man.
Yeah, but I just want to share it, man. Just make sure that the people know what people do.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to do this with you, because I didn't see many podcasts with you on there. I mean, there's a couple of interviews you've done, but I wanted to get your story and hear it from you, straight from you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, man. Seriously.
Okay, my friend, no problem. Thank you for being here.
She not Porsche, oh, now me get her. If